Yo, so today is April 5th. Is that the date? Is it April 5th? Yeah, today is April 5th. And I am currently sitting back thinking about the future, life. Just listened to a new album, uh J. Cole album, Might Delete Later. That was the first listen. It was pretty cool our first listen. I like to get back to the crib and be able to mellow out and play some music there. Got a few interesting books that I'm reading. Well, anyway, I wanted to talk about investing, my future self, and where I see myself going in the next 5 to 10 years. 10 years is kind of hard to imagine sometimes because uh 10 years could seem like so long. 5 years is not that hard to imagine. Um, but anyway, I was thinking about what it is I want out of life and what do I want my future life to be like. And in this part, I realized that for sure I don't want to live in the United States. Like that's a definite, And I think certain people reach that point where they like, oh, I'll leave the States or I'll move overseas. And other people don't ever see themselves ever leaving the United States. And both thought processes are cool. I think if you live in the United States, you're at risk of never being able to enjoy life, especially the way things are going. You're at risk. You run the risk of never being able to enjoy life. Like they say that the average American would need about $2.5 million in order to retire. Let's think about that number for a second. So that means a person would probably have to invest heavily in real estate, stock market, open a business and all of this stuff for about 20 some odd years before they're able to get a break. Now, I have about in my 5 year plan, what I plan to do is this. Um, let's say in the next 5 years, I make about $350,000. My goal is to invest about $35,000 a year. So that'll be 175,000 invested. Um, Pay off my debts with the remaining finances I have. So today, they took about $583 from my weekly pay into my investment account with New York Life Securities. And that's my third investment. So they take out once a month, they take out 583. And that account I probably put about like $8,000. And my primary account, I do $1,300 a month. And so I have those two investment accounts, and then I have uh the life insurance that goes along with two whole life policies. And I have a situation with uh a mutual fund account. So I have about three investment vehicles. And then on the side, I'm currently creating a business with my friends where we're raising about $110,000 in order to start a non-emergency medical transportation business in the next 2 to 3 years. So I'm already putting action behind my words. So I'm not one of those people that's sitting back talking about what they want to happen 5 years from now or 10 years from now, and they're not working towards it. But once I'm out of debt, which will be about another 23 months, 22 months, whenever I'm out of debt, then I'm going to put even more money in my investment accounts, uh, weekly and monthly, probably about $3,000 a month to $3,500 a month. They just go straight into my investment accounts so that I could an emergency fund, so that uh I could get out. I could reach financial independence and retire early. And so they have an acronym called FIRE that somebody thought of, and it's been popularized. And it stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. Now, I think about, what if I'm like staying in the workforce here and I'm constantly trying to get to the 1 million mark or something like that in order so I could retire early. But the problem with that is I don't want to waste my youth or my best years just working, 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 working in order to get some type of financial independence later. Like, so after about 5 years, like 2 years getting out of debt and investing, another 3 years to put some distance between and build up my emergency fund and put some distance in between where or me getting out of debt and putting and spend 3 years more aggressively putting money into my investment vehicles. I'm bouncing. I already told myself so about 34, 35 at the latest. 34, 35. I'm 29 years old now. I'm out of here. Like I'm leaving the States. And I think that that's going to be the best thing for me. I don't plan on looking back. I mean, I'll come back to visit this and that, but I won't be ever working again in the capacity that I work now. Right now I work 80-hour weeks, and I drive trucks, and if I'm not sleeping, I'm working, and then I take time off every now and again. Um, and I know people who work significantly less than me. I know people make more than me. I know people that make less than me. I think it all depends on what you want to do, right? But as for me, I don't see the point in, and even in buying a house in the United States. I could buy a house in the US, but if I buy a house in the US, I'm probably just going to use it as a rental property. I don't even think I stay there. I just use it as a rental property to enrich my life overseas. You know what I'm saying? Sell it, something like get some equity in it, sell it. Like, you know, um, the reason I want to go overseas is, one is it's a lot cheaper. Like and I definitely want to learn Spanish, but I also want to visit Africa, East Asia, and I just think to myself, like, wow, a person could take $10,000 and live comfortably in some of these places for months at a time. And the way things are going in the United States, $10,000 won't even last a person 3 to 4 months. Think about this for a second. So, and then a person could say, well, spend less, save more, this and that. Listen, even if you're on a vegetarian diet, eating no meat, not eating out, between life insurance, health insurance, car insurance, possible car notes, student loans, and all these other factors, is increasingly expensive. It's too expensive to live in the United States. And for a person like me who work 80-hour weeks, I want to be able to enjoy the fruits of my labor. Like I want to be able uh to maximize my freedom. Now, temporarily, I gave up my personal freedom so that I could make money. And now I'm creating a vehicle where I can make money without having to work, and my investments are working for me. So I'm not complaining, so to speak. I'm just more so verbalizing what I see my future being. So I wonder what would make a person want to I wonder what make a person want to stay here though. Like for those type of people, I really respect, but I'm kind of enamored by their thinking and a little slightly confused because I always think like it's so expensive to stay here. Why go through that stress of staying here? Like, but then again, it was a time, and I was talking to one of my good friends, Rob. my coworker, and I was telling him that it was a time that I always wanted to go overseas, but it was a time where I thought that the United States was the best country in the world, that, you know, every place outside of the United States was third world and living in villages. I mean, and we're basically taught this in in the educational system. You know, when you see pictures of the Caribbean or Latin America, it's always the worst scenes, and the Philippines and these other places is never anything good. But then when you look at the wealthiest people in the country, they all live overseas. They all have property overseas, things of that nature. So um I first went overseas at 24, then I went through the last 5 years of my 20s. I spent traveling and going different places for short vacations. And and now I'm just ready to be able to experience it more long term, months at a time instead of a week or 2 weeks at a time. And it took some time to grow. So I think that since I've been consistent at traveling, I think that my entire outlook has changed on the game. Like I'm not the same person and I don't think the same anymore because I've had the exposure to know what's different. But for me personally, I don't see myself wanting to grow old here. I think that the culture here is very much so deprive yourself of happiness, liberty, freedom in order for money, and then is never enough money, even if a person makes, let's say, millions of dollars, which is if you do conversions and go into uh other economies, there's no way that you can have millions of dollars and not be able to live a great life elsewhere. People are still going to say, okay, I have millions of dollars, but I'm still going to work, 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 work. And our culture is that if you're not working and you're not bleeding yourself dry for the system, you're not successful. And I would even go as far as to say that the American mentality is that if you do not make money or you're not working or you're not making money, that you're not even human. That I would go as far to say that we judge how human a person is by how much money they have. And if a person says, "Oh, that's not true, like money isn't everything," no, think about it. We criticize people who don't work, who don't contribute. We look how we treat the homeless, look how we treat the mentally ill, look how we punish people that gets into prison. How are they punished? By making them work. And not just by making them work, but making them work for pennies on the dollar. Right? Look how we punish young people. Look how we punish young people by forcing them to pay exuberant prices in rent and education in order to enter the workforce, and then punish them by not giving them occupations. Okay. Look how we punish old people who are unable to work. We punish old people who are unable to work by putting them in old people prisons and basically charge them rent that either their insurance or their family members have to pay in order to babysit them. You see what I'm saying? The whole culture is centered around feeding the economy. And if you even say that you no longer wish to live life like that, then you're the crazy one. Is something wrong with you, right? I think that we are losing the ability to of independent thought with the advent of the internet, social media, everyone constantly sharing ideas back and forth. We are losing the ability to have independent thought. And we're also losing the ability to see the forest from the trees. Now, I think everyone reaches a point in their life where they say they want to retire. In the United States, most people say they want to retire at age 65. Now, let's think about this for a second. That's a very long term time to have to work in order to retire. Age 65. Let's say the average person lives to be 75 years old. That's what they say the average man lives to be. So a person would have 10 years if they retire at age 65 in order to just enjoy life. So a person will wait till they're old or older, health has changed, have gone through life to be able to see the places they wanted to see, visit the people they wanted to visit, neglect certain relationships and all of this stuff in order to be alive and feel like and to live life. Life is meant to be lived. Life is not meant to be a robot or a drone for a corporation or for your flag or for your country. And I understand this is not just a phenomenon that's taking place in the United States. I mean, this is taking place worldwide, but the United States has a peculiar problem where within the United States, we get the least amount of vacation times out of any developed countries or first world countries. Our education system is lacking in math and science. Jobs are already plotting to replace employees with technology and computer systems. So I think the average young person has a disconnect with the older generation. When I say older generation, I'm talking about the Xers and the baby boomers. Like it's a it's a disconnect between thinking because their thinking is work hard and one day you'll be able to enjoy life, which I do believe that to some degree. But I think that the young people are thinking, wait, I seen what the economy did to my uncle, my auntie. I seen what this economy did to my mom, my dad. I seen what this way of living has done to my grandparents. And I don't know if I want that for myself if I have other options. I don't want to be long suffering and have to just struggle and fight just to have a roof over my head and food to eat when my ancestors already went through slavery in America. We already suffered enough. Nobody suffered more than people who were enslaved. And for people that say, well, you yourself were not enslaved, yeah, I wasn't, but my ancestors were. And where do I find myself? I found myself having to work for money in order to provide for my basic most needs: food, shelter, clothing, water, and affection. So money is has been connected to our ability to express ourselves as humans, as a living entity. And without money, a lot of people would think that they're not even human. But it's like the old song says that the best things in life are free. I don't have to pay anybody for the air that I breathe. Now I do have to pay money and trade to get sustenance to put in my body to survive, but and we do need housing. But why not just go to some place where maybe perhaps you have to learn another language, another culture, but you could live life at a higher status of living and you don't have to go so far into debt in order to make it here. Okay, let's talk about buying a house, raising a family. Are you really raising a family if you buy a house and get stuck into this economy here where you save money for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years? You take a large percentage of it, you put 20% down on the house, you get an 80% mortgage, you spend the next 10 years or 15 years paying off this mortgage. And then let's say by this time you're somewhere in your late 40s or something like that. You're just now getting out of debt, but now since you spend so much money and doing this and that, you're trying to live again. You're trying to do this and that. It's just always chasing a carrot. It's never going to be enough. And guess what? When that person dies, when you die, none of that stuff is coming with you. How important is some of the things that we're fighting to prove how human we are? The money, the wealth, the social status. How important is that if when we die, when we transition, none of that stuff is with us? Even if we are as massive as like a mega wealthy person, we still can't take it with us. It's not coming with us in the afterlife. We are not the Egyptians. Now, I do think passing down property and wealth and giving people head starts that's related to you or charities, I do think that all of that stuff is important. I'm not trying to devalue um material things, but I think that we live in such a material culture that it's increasingly obvious that we are beginning to lack spirituality, you know. I read a quote yesterday that says most women will rather listen to their boss than their broke A husband. And it was by this Boyce Watkins, who I like, Dr. Boyce Watkins. I bought a few of his books and I like his material. And perhaps he was just posting this to get people to view his channel and start a conversation, right? But I thought about that for a second. I said, wow, like, man, that just seems depressing. For one, okay, let's dissect that. Most women would rather listen to their boss than their broke A husband, is what he wrote. Okay. First question I would have to ask, why is the husband broke? Is he broke because of his race and the marginalization of his people? The fact that his ancestors went through slavery, Jim Crow, second class citizenship, high incarceration, being put in poverty. Then this person is born and they go get some type of trade or career, and then they're still being underpaid. They still don't. So they're working essentially for the people who benefited off their ancestors being enslaved. Is that why they're poor? And in that regard, you're saying that the women don't necessarily value the man, but you're saying that the women will value the money that the man provides. So in that case, if that's what you're saying, that if you have to have the money or wealth or social status in order to be worthy of respect as a human being, then let's say if this woman gets in a situation with, let's say, someone who's abusive but has a lot of power, and then this woman is being abused because it's a imbalance of financial power or equality, then at the same time, society is going to cry and say, and when I mean society, I mean the people who make up society. Human beings are going to say, "Oh, it's not fair that this guy had a bunch of money and look how he treated this woman and manipulated her or abused her and stuff like that." But then at the same time, you're saying that the women themselves would rather be in relationships with guys of a certain social class, and if you don't have this social class, then you're not worthy to be listened to or to be respected. Okay, so um I ended up leaving. I read that post. I went inside a store. I left the wheel because I was sitting in my truck when I read this, and I went inside the store. And when I was in the store, I overheard this relatively young lady talking to a girlfriend on the phone, and she was at work and she was venting about her relationship with her man, and she was basically she her exact words was, "Wow, so I have to basically give my body to you in order for you to give me money." So she felt as though that she has to give sexual access to the guy that she's in a relationship with in order to receive money, which she needs for her sustenance. So I said, man, that's heavy. So here we are. Is one guy saying that they'll rather listen to their bosses, and the bosses like I seen the job she's working, she's not making very much money. So let's not say like, oh, I'd rather listen to the boss because the boss isn't just because you work a job doesn't mean you're making a lot of money. Like the job is profiting off of you. So okay, she is in a situation where she is in a relationship with some guy. Let's say he has money or status, and she wants the the lifestyle or the money that that status brings in. So she's trading her essence and giving the guy sexual access in order to get resources. But the problem she's encountering is the guy is receiving the sexual access, but he's not giving her the monetary resources that she's essentially trading herself for. And she said that she felt like, a prostitute in that regard. Now here, and this is why I say this is the problem with this whole system, is that if we value money over the person or understanding, then we run the risk of putting our daughters and our sons in dangerous situations, because we're telling them that as long as you have resources and money, that you can do no wrong, instead of teaching them that money is a tool to be used for your survival, but it's not the end all be all. So that was just some thoughts that I was thinking. And simultaneously, while all of this is happening, I'm still thinking like, man, I got to get out of the States. Like, stuff is just ridiculous here. And so, like, I give you an example, right? So I invested $583 today, on auto draw, went to my investment account. I could live in like a place like a major city like Lima, Peru, for less than $500 a month. I could rent a place. I could rent a place for, let's say, $300, $250, a nice apartment somewhere in Lima, Peru, and I could use the remaining $250 for food, travel, and budgeting. So I could take $600 and live really. Okay, let's just only do rent. I could take 500. I could take $583 and pay 2 months rent overseas in a foreign city. Let's say I took $6,000. I could take $6,000 and give me a really nice apartment for, let's say, $1,000 a month, and I could pay out 6 months rent and take another $6,000. And I'm talking about fully furnished, internet, overlooking the city, beautiful views. That same type of apartment or place of residence would cost me triple that in the States, like $3,000, $4,000 a month just to live. How are you going to convince someone that they could get a better status or better standard of living simply by switching locations? Now, let's keep in mind that some people think that, okay, that if you have more money, then you're going to be valued. Okay, let's go with that logic, which I'm not disagreeing with, but let's go with that logic. If that's the case, how are we going to tell men who go internationally and live internationally that they are doing something wrong or they shouldn't think like that? But then at the same time, you're telling them to stay in the game that's rigged against them in their home country where their money is being devalued. But if they just cross and not even go there for, we're talking about an hour flight out of the United States, 2 hour flights, 6, 7 hour flights. And on the extreme, a 14-hour flight getting to Thailand or the Philippines, and their money is instantly going to be worth um 3 times more, twice as much, 4 times as much. How are you going to convince these same guys that you've brainwashed them and told them that the money defines who they are? So why would this person take, let's say, that 1.2 million that they spent 20 years saving? Why would they take that money and stay in the United States when the United States is going to eat that money? And then they could start a business here and live overseas and live a higher quality of life at a much younger age. I don't see how to, unless the United States just say, you know what, we're going to, which they're going to do, increase taxes or this and that. But I think most Americans, the United States will have to put something in place to stop people from doing it. But here's the problem. the majority of Americans are still, even with the advent of the internet and people showing their travels and all of this stuff, most Americans are so brainwashed or so afraid to move overseas. And it's not their fault because we grow up as babies in this system telling us that this is the world's greatest country, the best country in the world. Most Americans are just never going to leave the United States. They might, and then the way the jobs are set up that you're unable to leave the United States. How are you going to leave the United States and you have to work to pay that mortgage? You have to work to pay those student loans. You have to work to pay off those health bills. You see, the United States is built upon getting you caught up in owing people money. So in order to leave, you gotta first pay off everybody that you owe. Then secondly, after paying off everybody you owe, you gotta pay yourself so you're able to leave. Most people never going to get past the first step of paying everybody that they owe. So how could they leave? So in closing, where I see myself in 5 years is I want to teach other people how to leave the United States. Now, I'm not saying to leave to never come back. That's not perhaps what I'm saying, but to give yourself more options. Like, I don't want my brothers and sisters to go through so much drama here to where they're going broke and they can't even afford to live. They having health problems, and they could just leave and go someplace else and live and have a higher standard of living. Just like people come to the United States to get what a higher standard of living. What's so wrong with Americans leaving the United States to do the same thing, to get more bang for their buck? Is the same thing. And I think that we're taught to look down on people who think about leaving the United States for a higher standard of living. And I can't lie, like I said, I was in that situation too. I used to look at people that was moving to certain places as wow, like that's crazy. Like what they doing over there? I had to be educated and get a re-education to say, no, like listen, God made the whole wide world. He made the whole earth for you to explore. You don't have to stay in one city, one town, even if you live in New York or you live in Miami or you live in Los Angeles or Houston or Dallas or you live in a major United States city, Minnesota, Chicago, that doesn't mean you have to stay there your whole life. You know, you could explore the world. God gave us the whole world to live. We don't have to stay in one place. And see, here's what I plan to do. I plan to just bounce. Like my quit day, the day that I quit this, quit it all, or I'm not even gonna say quit. The day that I lay my burdens down, as the old folks where I'm from in Louisiana say, the day I lay my burdens down is gonna be a happy day because I'm going to say that I did everything that I was supposed to do. I saved the money, I invested it, uh I paid off my student loans. I paid off the people who helped pave the way for me. I was responsible. I gave to the system. I did everything that I needed to do in order to be a contributing member of society. And now I'm reclaiming my time back and I'm bouncing. Now, in the meantime, my goal is is to live to see it. I think that's the scariest part is wanting to do something and then not being able to live to see it, like something happening to where we die prematurely and we don't get to live it, or our health starts to fail or decline, and then we're sitting on the bed somewhere thinking about what we wanted to do or what we could have done, and how we're unable to do it because we were caught up in trying to do what society told us to do, which is to be a worker robot. I don't mean to sound so cynical, but when you get exposed to new knowledge and new information, it's hard to think the same again. It's very difficult for me to go back to my old way of thinking after being exposed to certain things. I can't even think the same way because I just see the logic in it. Like, why would I want to pay $35,000 a year to stay in a major city in the United States, and I could take half of that, and I could take that 35,000 and live 2 years overseas. You see what I'm saying? But in order to get citizenship, so I won't have to just stay at one place at a time, I probably have to save and get an investment, a visa where I start a business or I buy a property there where I can stay long term, so that I wouldn't run the risk of being in a situation where the United States changes laws and I'm unable to bounce, you know. So that's really my rant. Is just thinking that God made the whole earth, not just one place. And I want other people, if I'm able to be able, I want to educate other people and show them how beautiful the world is, that the world is a very beautiful place with very beautiful people, you know, and it's okay for us to cross state lines. It's across for us. It's people who are taught in America, and this is elsewhere too. Like this happens internationally as well. um People are taught wherever they from, whether it's in somewhere in a village or a city or this, they're taught that rules are put in place that you can't go to the other side of town, or you can't cross the street, you can't do this, and you can't. They're always told what you can't do. Man, the hell with that. You don't have to listen to that. You can do whatever you put your mind to doing. Now for me, my path has been getting the necessary education, learning the necessary skills, doing things like I did today where I had to invest. Today, okay, I'll be transparent. Last week I didn't work as many days as I usually work. So I made less than $1,000 last week. Well, let's say I made $1,000, and after taxes I had, let's say, $775. So clearly I'm in the working class, right? I'm not a rich man. But it's all a perspective, right? Because some people might view it differently. Well, okay, out of that amount that I had, I took $583 before I even had anything to do with it, and was that money was invested. So I was essentially left with about 200 and some odd dollars to live off of for the next week. And next week I should get like $2,000, but this week it was a lower pay period. Um, because I had worked from Wednesday to went from Wednesday to I worked from Wednesday to Saturday, so it was a very short week for me. But ultimately, uh, um, this week I worked the whole pay period, so I'm going to get more money. So, and then I'm on a new route. So with this route, I should be making close to $7,000 a month. Now, I'm being transparent here because I don't have time to sugarcoat how much I make and all this other stuff and pretend like everybody's so fake. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's trying to appear to be more important than what they really are. Like it's hilarious to me, but there is good people out there, right? It's good people out there. So I thank God for all of the good people out there who's real. And I think that there's one thing that the older generation didn't do that the younger generation does is the younger generation is sharing information rapidly. Like, yo, this how much money I made for this job. Like, oh, this how much this company pays, or this is how this system works. And what that's doing is stopping people from wasting their time. It's stopping people from wasting their because no one wants to. Time is the resource we don't get back. So hopefully I make it out the struggle um and be able to get my freedom and my life back. Now I'm one of the lucky ones, and I always say that because I'm at least I'm able to feed myself, right? At least I'm able to be healthy enough to work, right? I'm young enough, I got enough education, I'm paying back my student loans. Last week I put $650 on my student loans. This week I didn't put anything on my student loans, but next week I'm gonna pop off and put some more on my student loans. Um, but I usually been putting anywhere between 375 to $900 on my student loans every week, the last like 8 weeks. So I'm rapidly I have a goal of putting at least 10, and then next year I'm planning on getting completely out of debt by the end of next year. And so after this year and next year, I'll be 3 years closer to getting out to being able to, have enough money to leave the United States. Now, also while I'm talking my talk, if things keep going the way they're going, I would actually like right now, if I wanted to, but especially after I get out of my debt, if I wanted to, I could go buy a house. I could go buy a house, a really nice house, right? But the thing is not about do I want to get the houses, do I want to be in debt for another 12, 15 years? You see how they get us? But why would I do it? To impress people that don't matter. To say, oh, look how important I am. Look how successful I am. Right? All of that stuff is unimportant, yo. Like when I lost my dad and my brother and they passed away, I really realized, like, man, all of this stuff is stupid. All of this stuff is dumb as hell. Like, none of that stuff. I would change a lot to have that situation be different. You know, I much rather enjoy a sacred space than a big space. I much rather enjoy being in a sacred space with sacred people who respect my energy than trying to impress people or get value or validation from a society that doesn't even view me as a human being if I don't have access to the material things. It's pretty heavy stuff. And as always, I could be wrong. I might listen to this 10 years from now and think, man, I was so ignorant back then. I can't believe that I was thinking like that. Or I might come back 10 years from now, listen to this and say, ha, nothing has changed. People are still doing the same thing. So that's been my podcast for the day. As always, I like to wish you all well health and common sense. I hope that you have a very good year and years to come. And I pray that you find peace and whatever makes you happy. I pray that you have that in abundance. Peace.